Yo, what's up, everyone? This is LeetCode 56, merge intervals. We've done this problem in Python. Now we're doing it in C++. I would recommend doing insert intervals also. It's another interval problem. It'll kind of get you used to how to handle the different edge cases and stuff. It's good to practice interval problems rather than just doing one, right? If you're following me on the Grind 75, we already did it, but you can revisit that problem. It was a bit ago. But yeah, just good practice to do insert intervals also. But anyways, this is merge intervals, so we're only given one input, which is the intervals array, and some of them overlap, and we have to merge them when they overlap, right? Now, I want to talk about something really important before we do anything, which is that you should never make assumptions when you're working on problems, especially when you're starting to get to the harder problems. So for example, the inputs that they give you, they're sorted, right, by the start time. But unless that's explicitly told to you that it's sorted, you should never assume that's always the case, because you're going to run into problems if you make silly assumptions like that when it's not explicitly told to you, right? What I mean by that is, like, you can have an array like this. We'll say like 2, 2, 2, 3, and like, I don't know, 0, 1, right? It's very odd, but you actually can have an array like this in this problem, right? And your solution would run into problems if you didn't account for this. With your arrays being unsorted, right? So we actually do have to sort this problem. And yeah, I'm basically just telling you, don't ever make assumptions about your inputs and stuff unless it's explicitly told to you, especially as you get into harder problems, because you're gonna end up running into silly errors. So let's sort this first before we do anything. So we're gonna do intervals.begin, and okay, and just boilerplate stuff, right? We need to make a vector of a vector in order to return something, right, for our return statement, because we need to have the intervals after they're merged. All right, here's our illustration. So these blue ones are the inputs for the intervals, and these peach colored ones, I think that's peach color. But the peach colored ones are like the merge intervals, and this is example 1, by the way. And so how we're going to do this is basically, you can see, like, if this start point here is less than this end point here, then we have a merge, right? And we have to merge them. And the way we merge them is basically keep this one as the start point, but the end point is kind of variable, because technically this doesn't have to be a 3. This could be here, right? And 2 would still be less than whatever this is. So you don't automatically want to set this as the endpoint for the merge. You have to take the maximum between this and this, okay? So that's how we make sure the merge works properly. And in terms of how we're going to approach this programmatically, the issue is we have a start point, and we have, or not a start point, but we have a 0th index in our last index, right? And those are unique edge cases, kind of, because nothing comes before the 0th element, and or I guess the 0th index, and nothing comes after the last index, right? So nothing comes before this, and nothing comes after this. So those are unique cases we need to handle. And the way we can approach that to kind of handle those edge cases is, why don't we just basically take the first element in the array, set that as a previous interval, right? And let's just basically loop from the first index forward, okay? And use the previous to kind of do calculations, okay? So why don't we do that really quick? So first of all, let me explain something also. So this is getting the 0th element, so the 0th interval, like in the example 1, 1, 3, and then 0 is the start time, 1 is the end time, right? But rather than using 0 and 1, 0 or 1 to get the start or end time, I'm just going to use a variable called start and a variable called end, just so the code is more readable, okay? So let's set our previous start, interval 0, start, previous end, because again, the first element in the array is going to be basically our previous. And we're going to start a for loop, but not from the 0th index, but from the first one onwards, okay? So let's set our previous first, though. Okay, so we're going to say for int I is equal to 1, I is less than intervals dot size, I plus plus. Okay, now now we're basically starting here. Okay, we're starting here. This is previous, and we're starting here. So when we compare this to this, right? When we compare the current interval we're on to the previous, what do we need to check? Well, we need to check the current interval we're on's start time, and if that is less than or equal to the end time of the previous interval. And I want to mention something also. If they are at the same spot, like if this 1 extended to a 2, they overlap still, okay? So it's less than or equals to, actually. So basically, the element we're on, if that start time is less than the previous's end, then we need to do something, okay? So we're going to say if intervals of I, the current element we're on, if the start is less than or equal to previous end, then we need to do something. What do we need to do if they overlap? And maybe let me just do that comment, right? Make my code readable. So if this is less than or equal to this, that means there's overlap. So we need to take the maximum between these two. And again, we need the maximum because again, this technically could be out here, in which case the merge should extend out here if that was the case. So we need to do the previous end is going to be std max. We're going to say previous end and intervals I end. Okay, we're going to get the maximum, set that to the previous end. And so previous end is now our new, so now our previous technically is this, and we're going to move on to this. Okay, there's no overlap, so we need to do something, right? If there's no overlap, what we're going to do is we're going to take, there's no more overlap to handle for this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, put it into our answer array, and set this as the new previous, right? Because again, there's no more overlap to handle with this one. So we can just do answer.push back. Let's say we need to set the points, the previous start, previous end. Again, it has to be an array of arrays. Our answer is a vector of a vector, so we need to make sure we're pushing an array into it, right? So we're gonna say, and now we need to set the previous start, remember, on the current interval we're on. So we're gonna say intervals of I start previous end is equal to intervals of I end. Okay, and now we can almost return, but we have to handle a special edge case, which is, well, it's not really an edge case because it'll always happen, but I guess it is an edge case, which is that, okay, so we added this to our answer array, right? Now we move on here, and this is the new previous. Okay, no overlap, so we add this to our answer array. And this is our new previous. However, when there's nothing else to loop and check against if it overlaps with, right? So we technically exit the for loop, and we never handle this. So we need to make sure we actually put this into our array, right? Our answer array. I say array and vector kind of interchangeably, right? But you get the point. I know technically arrays are cannot expand dynamically, but hopefully it doesn't bother you too much. Let's write some comments, okay? So we're gonna say either we merge and don't append quite yet, or append, but I should say, or we append to answer, but or we have appended to answer in the for loop, but haven't appended yeah, either we merge up here and we don't quite append yet, or we appended up here but we haven't appended the new previous, right? So what I mean by that, and this will make more sense in this illustration, right? So I'll show you the two edge cases really. So so this is previous, right? Okay, we go here. This is the interval we're on. Okay, there's no overlap, so previous can go in the answer array, and this is our new previous now. However, there's nothing else to check it, so technically we missed the step where it gets appended to the answer array, which is why we're appending it down here. Additionally, let's say there's a case like this, right? So we merge these. So this would be our new previous. We go here. This is a current interval we're on. Okay, there's no overlap, so this gets appended to answer, and this is our new previous, right? We move here. Okay, there actually is a merge. So we merge this. We merge this. Now it's a merge, right, in the if statement. But we never appended it, right? And so in either case, whether we enter the if or the else last, there's always something to append. Right? And that's basically what I'm trying to get at. Anyways, I think this problem isn't too difficult. I think it just has a few edge cases you need to handle, which that is the difficult part. I'll be honest, these problems aren't my favorite. Like these problems where the difficult part is the edge cases, but hopefully this helped. And yeah, my best advice though is always make sure you draw out your problems if they're confusing like this and they have edge cases or like a call stack or something, right? Like the permutations problem we did, that one has a call stack. But problems like this also with edge cases, make sure you draw it out. It'll make more sense. But I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.